Welcome back. This session we will see some basics of Ethernet. We have gone through different channel allocation protocols in general, right? Now we have to see how these principles are actually applied to real systems, specifically in LANs, that is local area networks. So IEEE has standardized a number of LANs and MANs and given a name IEEE 802, right? And a set of protocols are there like 802.2, 802.3, like that, and a lot of standards are there, and among those only few actually survived, and the major among those actually survived are these four. First one is 802.3 Ethernet, that is wired LAN, 802.11 wireless LAN, then 802.15 Bluetooth, and 802.16 wireless MAN. So we have to go through these two standards, that is wired and wireless local area networks. So let us start from this IEEE 802.3 Ethernet. So for some basic understanding, let us have some discussion on the brief history of Ethernet and the physical layer of Ethernet first. Then we will go through the data link layer of Ethernet. Okay. So as a starting point, let us start from where the origin of Ethernet is actually and why such a name. Well, the story actually starts out in Hawaii in 1970s, and there were no working telephone systems in Hawaii that time, and the researcher Norman Abramson and his colleagues, the problem was that their main computer was at Honolulu, and they wanted to connect the users on remote islands to this main computer. So different users will be in maybe in different remote islands. So how to connect to this main computer from these remote machines? So connecting via cable was not at all possible because it would require cabling under Pacific Ocean. Okay, so they found an alternative, that is through radio waves. So what they did is, so each user terminal equipped with a small radio having two frequencies, one for upstream, that is from this terminal to the central computer, and the other for downstream, that is from the central computer to the remote machine. It was called AlohaNet. This network worked well in low traffic. But in the case of high upstream traffic, that is every terminal want to communicate with the central computer, the performance went down badly. And later one MIT student, Bob Metcalfe, and his friend Wisborg, they were exposed to this Abramson's network. And later when this Bob Metcalfe was working at Xerox PARC, where what we call now as the personal computers were developing, but these machines are actually completely isolated. So using the concept he learned from this Abramson's AlohaNet, they designed and implemented the first local area network, and they named it as Ethernet. And they called it as Ethernet, thinking that the electromagnetic radiations propagates through a medium called luminiferous ether. But later it was found that it can be propagated through even vacuum. And in Ethernet, actually, the media is not just vacuum but thick coaxial cables. And this is the original configuration in case of Ethernet. We have a thick coaxial cable into which different machines are actually connected using a transceiver and a tap. This machine is actually connected to this main cable using tapping method, and the end of the cable is indicated using terminators. And this transceiver is actually responsible for receiving and transmitting signal to this machine, and detecting collisions and carrier sensing. Everything is done by this transceiver. And we have an interface here and a controller here to connect this machine to this network cable. And this is architecture for this Ethernet. Every machine is connected as we saw in the last slide. This is how it is actually connected. The media is called ether, and usually this cable will be maybe up to 2.5 kilometer long, and the signal as traveling through this cable, it may be degraded, its quality may be degraded. So after every 500 meter a special repeater will be attached to regenerate the signal. So the function of this repeater is to amplify or restore the original value of the signal. Otherwise, after traveling along a distance, the value or the quality of the signal will be degraded, and at the receiver side, the interpretation may be completely different from what the actual data sent by the sender. Initially, the system ran at 2.94 megabit per second, and in 1978, it was standardized for 10 Mbps, that is DIX standard, and in 1983, with some minor changes, it became IEEE 802.3. And Ethernet continued to develop, and still it's developing, right? Now let us go through the physical layer of this Ethernet first. Let us start from Ethernet cabling. 4 different types of cabling were used in Ethernet. Those were 10 base 5, 10 base 2, 10 base T, and 10 base F. This 10 base 5 is also called thick coaxial cable. Now it is obsolete actually. That was the original cable when this Ethernet was first developed. 10 stands for it can support up to 10 megabit per second, and baseband transmission is used, and the maximum segment cable length is 500 meter without any repeater. After that, some repeater should be there to amplify the signal. Okay, and as you know, 2 different types of transmissions are there. One is baseband transmission, and the second one is broadband transmission. In the case of baseband transmission, some digital signaling will be used, right? Digital encoding schemes like Manchester, differential Manchester encoding scheme. So such things will be used, and the entire cable bandwidth will be used for a single signal at a time. So frequency division multiplexing is not possible in case of baseband, and usually this is used in bus topologies and all. So here in case of Ethernet also, baseband transmission is used. And the second type is 10 base 2, which is called thin coaxial cable. So here the maximum segment length can be up to 185 meter only. That is why it is given as 2 here. Okay, now so the number of nodes also will be limited. Up to 30 nodes will be supported here. Then we have the twisted pair 10 base T. T stands for twisted pair, then F stands for fiber optic cable. So this is 10 base 5. Okay, up to 10 megabit per second speeds can be given. Baseband signaling is used. Up to 500 meter length will be supported for the cable without any repeater. And the connections use warm pair type. You can see here, this is the actual coaxial cable, main cable, into which our system is connected using a vampire tap. Okay, actually this tap is screwed into this cable to reach the core of this cable. So this vampire tap is directly connected to this transceiver. Okay, from the transceiver we are using a cable. It is connected to our network interface card of our system. Now the second type is 10 base 2, which is thinner than this 10 base 5. So it is more flexible and cheaper also, and easy to install. Then it uses BNC connector instead of this vampire tap. You can see that some T connectors are used to connect this network interface card of the computer to this main cable. Okay. So here also coaxial cable will be used for connection. Detecting a cable break or bad taps etc. was a major issue in case of coaxial cables, and it was usually done using a pulse. A pulse was injected into this long cable, and if that pulse hits an obstacle or at the end of the cable, an echo will be generated and will be sent back. By carefully analyzing the time interval between sending the pulse and receiving the echo, by that the origin of the echo can be located, and this is called time domain reflectometry. And this kind of problem like cable breaks led to a different kind of firing pattern, that is 10 base T. So T stands for twisted pair. The cables are twisted pairs and all stations running to the central hub. They are not directly connected, but a central hub will be there. Every station will be connected to this central hub. And the transceivers, as you know, which are the circuit to handle carrier detection and collision detection. And when a collision is detected, this transceiver put a special invalid signal. You remember that, right? Jam signal. To inform all other transceivers that a collision has occurred. And a fourth cabling option is 10 base F. F stands for this fiber optics. This is actually expensive due to cost of connections and all, but has excellent noise immunity, and it can run up to kilometers also. As a summary, these are the different cabling methods used. This is coaxial cable, thick coaxial cable, in which warm pair tap is used to connect this transceiver to this long main cable, whereas in case of 10/2, a T connector, a BNC connector is used to connect our system to this long cable, whereas in case of 10/T, a twisted pair is used to connect our computer to the central hub. Each version of Ethernet has a maximum cable length per segment, right? And after that, beyond that, a repeater will be required. So if larger network is needed, multiple cables are interconnected using this repeater. You can see here that we are using a category 5 cable, twisted pair cable, and length it can support up to 100 meters only. So after that, a repeater is used to regenerate the signal so that it can travel more distance. So repeater is actually a physical layer device. What it does, it will receive a signal and it will regenerate the signal. So zeros will be restored back into zeros and ones will be restored back into one. That's the function of this repeater. Just amplify and restore the original signal. So we have gone through different cabling used in this Ethernet. Now let us see how the data is actually transmitted over the medium, this cable. Okay, so encoding scheme here is definitely a digital encoding because we are using this baseband for transmission, right? So the encoding scheme used is Manchester encoding. You remember the Manchester encoding, right? In case of Manchester encoding, every bit interval will be divided into two equal half intervals. Okay, and for binary 1, it will be sent as first interval will be a high voltage and the second interval will be a low voltage, and the reverse for this binary 0. First a low voltage, then a high voltage. So in the middle of every bit there will be a transition. So different benefits are there for using this Manchester encoding. First one is if the sender and receiver are of different speed, this transition at the middle can be used for synchronization. The receiver will be able to identify where every bit starts, whereas in case of binary encoding, what happens, the zeros are continuously in the same level, right? So for the receiver it will be difficult to find out where each bit starts and ends, whereas here it can easily find out because for every bit there is a transition in the middle. Also this Manchester encoding helps in terms of collision, right? During collision, the collided signal state will be always different from valid 0 or 1 because we are using a special signal for this binary 1 and 0, whereas in case of binary encoding, suppose two zeros are get collided, the resulting energy also will be 0 level, right? So the sender cannot differentiate whether I am receiving the data sent by me or the collided signal, whereas in case of Manchester encoding, definitely if two different bits are get collided, the resulting energy will be different from this two different types. So it can easily detect that the collision is there. And then Manchester encoding, the high signal will be represented using 0.85 volt and the low signal is represented using minus 0.85 volt. So this is about physical layer of this Ethernet, and the next session we will see the data link layer of Ethernet. Thank you.